Welcome, viewers, to another Sports in Focus. I'm your host, Fitzroy Prendergast, and certainly Sports in Focus has been extremely popular, and we've caught up with a very, very busy person, the president of the Jamaica Football Federation, Crenston Boxhill. Crenston, welcome to the microphone of Cable News and Sports.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We want to look, first of all, at your life in football. Tell us a little bit about Crenston Boxhill growing up in the country. What was it like for you?
I take it that you're assuming that I was growing up in the country.
Right,
yes, you're correct there. Typical Jews growing up in the country. We played football and cricket was the two most important sports, two most popular sports for us.
That's Manchester?
No, in Clarendon.
Okay.
And we played football and cricket like every single day. We play before we go to school in the mornings. We play during every break. Like I said, any rural player, any rural student. And of course during the summer break.
Tell us which school you attended and you played football.
I attended Maypen Primary School. I played football and cricket for the Maypen Primary School. We went on to what was then the junior secondary school. I played football and cricket for the junior secondary school, the Maypen Junior Secondary School. Then I went to Vere Technical High School.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I was unable to make the football team at Vere.
Injured or
just wasn't good enough to make the team because in those days Vere ruled schoolboy football, so to speak. And you had players that were like Alan Cole, Kenneth Campbell, the late Orville Edwards, just to name a few.
Right.
And so it was a very, very, very good team. But I played 3 years of Headley Cup cricket.
Okay.
So cricket was my main focus then.
Okay. Interesting.
But of course, the interest in football was always there, to the point where after leaving school, that's very technical, I went to Canada for a while, came back, was working at the school, and got involved in the sports program. Bob Campbell, who was a very good friend of mine, we played on the same cricket team there at Vere. He was the coach of the football team, naturally, and I was the coach of the cricket team.
Whoa.
I managed the football team, and he managed the cricket team.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, so that's...
Okay. What were your specialty in cricket? Batting, bowling, or everything?
I was a pace bowler.
Okay.
I'm good at myself a little bit at bat too.
Okay.
But I was a pace bowler.
All right. After leaving Vere Technical, life had some twists and turns. Tell us how you got involved in football administration, period.
Well, of course, after leaving Vere Technical, I started to work with the government. And I was a traveling officer, and I worked at different parts of the island. I went to Westmoreland in the late 70s, 78 to be exact. And a lot of players, a lot of youngsters from Westmoreland had actually played football at Vere. Andrew Andrews comes very late to mind, and his brother played for St. Elizabeth Tech. And football was a very, very popular sport then in Westmoreland. Of course, it still is, because Reno was the champion rural team at the time. And we went there, I got involved, I formed my own club at the name of Westland with the support of a friend of mine, a colleague of mine, John Bardwell. We both were co-workers. And Westland was doing quite well. People like Anthony Corbett, who went on to represent Jamaica, to captain Jamaica. There were people like Linval Wilson, people like Dennis Hudson. All these youngsters were under the age of 12 when we started out. All of them went on to play for Jamaica. And the club became very competitive, challenged Reno many times. As a matter of fact, we actually, the first year that they brought in the rule where the two top clubs of the parish would play in the National League, as it was then, not the Premier League. We played All Island. Westland and Reno were the two top clubs from Westmoreland that represented the parish. We were doing quite well. I think we had played 5 games. We drew 1, won 4, and then the poliomyelitis hit Jamaica and the league was scrapped then. After that, I got involved in administration. I was elected as president of the Westmoreland Football Association. We did that for a couple of years, and I still was coaching at that. By then, now Reno and Westland had become one unit. I was the coach, and I spent, I think, 4 or 5 years there. Because of my job, I was then transferred to Manchester.
Okay.
Of course, got involved with the football again, became president of the Manchester Football Association. Did that for approximately 3 years. Then I was invited to be a part of the national program as assistant manager. That was in the early 90s. I did that for a couple of years until I was promoted team manager for both the senior team and the then Olympic team. and that was from 92 until the 98 campaign was completed. I moved from Manchester to Clarendon, again got involved in football, and I was of course back home now, and it was very easy to be elected as president of the Clarendon Football Association, and I did that until I was elected chairman of the South Central Confederation, and from there in 2003 I challenged the then president and was elected president of the JFF. So in a nutshell, that's what my football life is like.
You've had a very tremendous run across the broad spectrum of Jamaica's football. Very, very interesting, and it suits you to be the president of Jamaica Football Federation. How challenging has this role been for you?
You mean as the president of the JFF?
Yes.
It has been a very challenging one. We, like I just explained, we have the background. We understand what we want to do, both technically and otherwise. But the resources have been very limited. Okay. The fact that when we came in 2003, in I think it was like 4 or 5 months' time, we were actually in the middle of preparing for the World Cup in Germany. The qualifiers that would have started. There was not much left when we got there in terms of preparation. There was not much in terms of anything being in place to put a team together. So it forced us to, jump around, start to put things together, put a team together. And I think we started out fairly well. We did reasonably well. If you notice, for the first time, we dominated Central America. We won there. We won 3 of the. As a matter of fact, we didn't lose a game off the road. Unfortunately, the game that we lost it here, and we gave up some very soft points, I think, against Panama and against the US. That really caused us, to be out of the World Cup campaign, and that was a major setback for us. If we had qualified even for the second round, I'm certain that the funding that we are so short of now would be more readily available, and it would have allowed us to do a lot of things that we had set out to do. But having said that, we were still, with the limited resources, able to achieve some of the things that we set out to achieve. For example, for the 3rd time in our history, we won the Caribbean Cup, that is played for amongst the Caribbean teams, and we used local-based players again for the first time, because of course most of our more experienced players would have been contracted abroad and were not available. We went to those 10 games unbeaten and came out as Caribbean champions. As it relates to the female football, if you speak to the people who are involved in female football, they will let you know that for the very first time that an administration has placed so much emphasis on female football. And you can see the fruits, are being born now, in that we went to Mexico in the CONCACAF qualifiers recently and did reasonably, I would say extremely well. We dominated the Caribbean for sure, and we lost out closely to what you would regard as the superpowers of female football in the region, which is the Mexicans, the Americans, and the Canadians. The Canada game especially was a very, very close one, and I think it was just experience that made the difference between the two teams. But women football has catch on a lot in Jamaica over the last couple of years, and the girls are doing fairly well. Even though they are representing us in Trinidad, they won their first game yesterday, 7-0, I think, against Bermuda, and I'm looking for good things for them to qualify for the next round. Our youth football, we dominated the under-15 tournament last year. We came to, as it relates to the Caribbean version of it, of course, we were the top Caribbean team in the tournament. We were able to keep that team together for the better part of a year, having weekend camps, and whenever it was school break, we had camps during that time. We went back this year. Unfortunately, we did not retain our title as Caribbean champions, and that was mainly due to the difference in format of the competition. But we were able to get 3 high-quality games, one against Mexico. We lost that one 2-1, one against Panama. We drew that one 1-1, and against Canada. Interestingly, the team that knocked us out in the semi-final last year and went on to win the tournament, we beat them 3-0. And I think that I personally, as president of the JFF, would rather give up the so-called Caribbean champions in exchange for those high-quality games, because as you probably would be aware, we will be participating in the qualifiers for the Under-17 World Cup in South Korea next year, as early as in April of next year. And to get 3 high-quality games like those within a week, it really did us, I'm sure, a lot of good. It kind of allows us to see exactly where we are and what we need to do to be ready for between now and April. So with the limited resources on the international scene, we have achieved quite a bit. The fact that, like I said before, we are the top senior team, we are the top female team in the Caribbean, we are the top junior team in the Caribbean. I don't think that is any ordinary feat when you consider what we have to work with. Okay.
Continue.
Locally, we are a little bit disappointed that we have not been able to improve the infrastructure locally. Even though especially the Premier League, thanks to Royal Navy and the other associate sponsors, we have been able to raise the profile. We have changed the format to the league system, which has catched on a lot, and the clubs are very pleased with it. But in terms of the infrastructure throughout the island, that's one of our major disappointments. We have not been able to do much there to improve the playing surface for most of the parishes. The Premier League clubs, especially in the corporate area, have done a fantastic job in improving their own facilities. If you look at the clubs around, most of them have what you could probably call high quality playing surfaces and good playing surfaces, good infrastructure as far as hosting games are concerned. As a matter of fact, there are some clubs that we use their grounds to host international tournaments. So that is a disappointment. As it relates to foundation, yes, we qualified for 98, and I think that we missed the boat somewhat there, because there's no bigger achievement. To go on the World Cup stage is what we all want to do, and of course I played my role there, because like I told you, I was the manager for the team, but I really think that the administration then deserved all kudos for taking Jamaica to France. But having said that, I think we should have and could have done a little bit more in terms of building a more solid foundation for the future of Jamaica's football, so that it wouldn't be sheer luck and hope, even though you cannot really guarantee a position, because you have some bigger teams than us who have gone there once and have never returned. But if we had a stronger foundation, it would at least make our chances a little bit more, it make it a little easier. And as such, the fact that we have now in the process of establishing our first academy up in the hills of Monroe, I think that again is a significant feat. We have bought the place. It's not a leased property. We have bought it. We have paid, I think it was $25 million for it, and that is cash. We are now the sole owners of that particular property. And in discussion that we are having with Corporate Jamaica, one of the reasons why you probably waited for me so long is because I wanted to speak to a member of the private sector as it relates to coming on board for for that particular project. And I'm happy that I was able to talk to him, because the reception was very, very good. And I think that with the talent that we have as it relates to our youngsters, and it is, it has proven throughout the Caribbean that we probably have the best talented young set of youngsters, both male and female. The academy will do a fantastic job in molding them and getting them to make the transition from this age group to the next age group. And not to talk about transition, that is something that I'd want to comment on also. I think for the first time we are able to maintain that level of transition that is needed in the national program. In the past, you will have, for example, we qualify for the Under-17 and the Under-20 World Cup. And if you look around, there are very few of those players that you can find in the national team. And I'm talking about as far back as 3-4 years ago. Now, if you look at the Under-16, Under-15 team that went to Trinidad last year and came back as Under-15 champions, they were, it was a squad of 18 from that 18, no fewer than 13 players were a part of this year's squad that went to Trinidad. And I think that is very, very, very important, because we are a small country. We don't have 150,000 people to choose from like some countries. So when we identify the kind of talent that we have identified at this age group, it is so vital to keep them as much as possible. Of course, you're going to have a few people dropping out here and there, and you're going to have late developers. But it is very, very important to have the core of these players making the transition from one unit to the next level, so that they eventually be a part of the senior team down the road.
Crenston, let's look at some specifics. When you got into office in 2003, there was a cry of the JFF was in financial debt. There were some problems also with the headquarters in terms of the arrangement for this place. How has that gone? What has this present administration done in that respect?
Well, it has been a constant struggle from day one, because it is no secret the entire Jamaica knows that we took over an administration that was indebted to the tune of, I think it was in excess of $30 million. Presently, we are still paying statutory deductions for even as far back as 2002. We just got a letter from the collector of taxes in the last 2 weeks reminding us of a payment that is due, and that was due a month ago for 2002. That is long before we came into office. So that has been there, plus other debts, inclusive of debts to the former president. So we started out on the back foot, and that is why I said to you earlier that the limited resources has affected our whole growth and development as a federation, and affected us in achieving that are the things that we started out and wanted to achieve. As it relates to the building, what had happened then was that because of the financial situation that we were in, the finance committee was asked to make recommendations as to how best we could work ourselves out of it. And one of the recommendations was that came from the finance committee was that probably this building was not really necessary, and they were looking at a friendly buyer, so to speak, paying for the building, giving us a chance to recoup, work our way out of it, and then give us back another chance a couple of years down the road to repurchase the building. Of course, it did not go over well with the board, and as such, even though FIFA had intervened, but I can assure you that the board is not something that the board had accepted. So even without FIFA's intervention, it's not something that would have gone through. And again, I want to repeat, it was just a recommendation coming from one of the committees of the JFF.
Crenston, in terms of the building, is it this building now the property of the JFF? What is the situation with the building?
Yes, it is the property of the JFF.
Bought by the JFF?
Yes.
Okay. All right. One of the other things that we have, in recent times come to hear of is some things not done right. The former administration has been very critical of some of the things. We all know that there are issues that they would have because they lost the election. Tell us a little bit about the whole aspect. Address for me the whole aspect of non-performance. Can you say here that the current administration has done its best under the trying circumstances?
Of course, and I just gave you some examples. I mean, those are there to be seen. I mean, like I said before, if you look at the what we have achieved, of course we want to go out into the broader world. We want to now dominate Central America and CONCACAF, or even probably dominate is a kind of strong word now, but at least to be very competitive out in the CONCACAF field. But like the saying goes, you have to dance a yard before you dance abroad. And what we have done is that we have dominated the Caribbean region, both at the senior level, the junior level, and at a female level. So that is a significant achievement. The fact that in the history of Jamaica football life, the second piece of real estate that is owned by the federation, as well, was done so during this present administration, and we are talking about the academy, and we did that without the assistance of going to a World Cup program. where of course you would have that extra funding. We did that out of the limited resources that and with the FAP money that we get from FIFA that we have at our disposal. We have I think I can't give you the figure right now, but if you look at the amount of players that have gone through the ranks right now, I think we have no fewer than a dozen of our females that are attending colleges throughout North America. I'm sure this year alone, 6 left. We're able to get 5 to return to join the team to go to Trinidad. So in terms of getting our players into schools, and that was not done before as far as females are concerned. Yes, it was done to a lesser extent with the males, but like I said, we have been able to get no fewer than a dozen of our females into colleges across North America.
Some of your critics would say that the dip in FIFA's rankings for Jamaica will hurt the JFF significantly. What would you say to that, Crenston?
Of course, the dip in FIFA's ranking is a little bit disappointing. But if you are familiar with it, even though a lot of us are not even too familiar with it, but it's a new format that was used. I'm certain that with the whole format, it would not have been, even if we had dropped a few places, maybe 3 or 4 places, which is quite normal. Sometimes you drop 3 or 4 places. By the time you play 2 more games, you're going right back another 5 or 6 places, and that's what we have been doing for the last 3 years. We moved right up into the very low 40s, and that's where we were until this new format came about, which allowed us to slip to the point that we have slipped. But fortunately for us, it has not hurt us as badly as some would have wanted it to, because we are still an attractive team. We are still getting requests for games from quality teams, quality international teams. What I think is going to make the difference is when we acquire the services of a high-profile international coach, which is what we are in the process of doing now. We have had discussions with government. We have gotten a commitment of a part of the salary being taken up by the government. I personally have had a lot of discussions with the private sector, and so far I just want to say that it has been very refreshing. It has been very, very pleasing to the response that we have gotten, and as such I think that we are very close at this time to really getting on board a high-quality, high-profile international coach. And I'm certain that once that gentleman is here, it will make a hell of a difference as far as Jamaica's football is concerned. One, it will instill more confidence in the players. It will attract the fans more. He will be able to get more high-profile games, because that is another thing that we need to understand, that as you know, and I'm not here knocking our local coaches, as I think we have at least 2 or 3 good quality coaches, local coaches here, but it is much more than just the coaching on the field that is required at this level. It is required. What is required is the confidence of the private sector. That is one, and for some reason, that is a little bit, slow in coming when a local coach is in charge, and we need that. 2, a high-profile international coach would make it much easier to attract high-quality teams to Jamaica, and even to Jamaica going abroad to play. So I'm quite confident that once we are able to secure the services of this person that we are pursuing, then the entire football program will take a very, very important stride forward.
Who are the 3 persons that are shortlisted?
Peckerman from Argentina, Huddle, and John Barnes.
Of the 3, who do you think will eventually be Jamaica's coach? It may not happen, but where the discussions are in terms of...
I would rather not comment too much on that.
Okay.
We are more or less zooming in on one, so to speak, and we have been having good discussion, quite a few discussions with his representative. Discussions have been going quite good, and we are keeping our fingers crossed and hoping that in the very near future we will be able to put pen to paper as far as that is concerned.
What is your personal preference? Do you prefer an English coach? Your personal preference, do you prefer an English coach or a South American coach? Because obviously they have 2 different styles of play.
Again, I think this is a trick question. The fact that we have 1 South American on the list and 2 English, and based on that, I'd rather keep my own preference to myself.
Okay, that's no problem. All right, let's look at a little bit of our own coaching staff here. We there was a revamping of the coaching staff when Wendell Downsville was in charge for quite a while. That is not the situation anymore. What is the role of Wendell Downsville now, and why the need to revamp?
Well, football is like that, and every single coach knows that that is the life of a coach. When the team plays well, very rare the coach get commendation, especially from fans. It's always the players that play very well. When the team play badly, then it is the coach, and the coach is fully aware of that, and therefore the buck stops with the coach. And it happens all over the world. Whenever you go into a bad patch, then the coach jobs become very shaky. Downsville did a fairly reasonable job. He went through the Caribbean tournament unbeaten. He did no worse than anybody else at the Gold Cup. Even I'm talking about even international coaches that were here. He did no worse than them. He played a couple of games. I know he played against America, for example, and Joe. I think it was 1-1, right, which was a good result. And but he also went through a bad patch where he lost heavily to Australia. Team lost heavily to Ghana, and of course to England. And he was also the person in charge of the Olympic team when they went to the CAC games recently in Colombia. And as such, he figured that he think it was time to take a break. And we came back, we had a lot of discussions together, and he decided that he wanted to take a break then, and I agreed with him. But I think that, again, the fact that we are not blessed with an abundance of talent, both as players and coaches, I think that somewhere along the line, a person like a Downsville will have a role to play. The academy is coming on stream. He's a fairly qualified young man. He's still young, and he's quite exposed, and the Federation has invested quite a lot in him. So I personally don't think the door, I will go stronger than that, I know that the door has not been closed as far as the Downsville is concerned. As to exactly when and how and where he will fit in the program is something that we will work out. But as far as that is concerned, even Carl, if you look at Carl has been around for a very, very long time. And the door has never ever been closed on Carl. And the good thing about Carl is the kind of patriotic Jamaican that whenever he's called for national duties, he's always ready. When Downsville resigned the other day, we had some international commitment. The Canada game the other day was one. Of course, the beginning of the Digital Cup starts later this month is another one. The Peru game coming up on the 15th of November is another one. And therefore, we needed somebody to pilot the program until we were able to secure the services of the coach that we are looking. And when I took up my phone and called Carl and tell him I would like to have a meeting with him, and we had a meeting, and he was quite receptive. I mean, there was no frowning, he just saw us to work out the arrangement, and he was ready for the call, and he has come on board. And so the point I'm trying to make is that people like those, they will have to close the door themselves.
Some critics will say that Carl is being used by the Federation because he's going to be used only for an interim period, and then he's going to be left in the cold for an international coach to take over. How will you respond to your critics when they say that?
Well, you'll always have critics. Carl is a very intelligent person. Carl is a very bright young man. And I'm sure if you ask Carl would not see it the way the so-called critics have seen it. It's a job. Carl is a coach, and it's not a situation where he was tricked into a situation where he was asked to coach and then all of a sudden somebody else was brought in. From day one, in the discussions we had, the arrangement was that Carl, from this period, the 16th of August to the 16th of November, we are looking an interim coach, somebody to take charge of the team during this particular period. Are you interested? I mean, he could have said no if he wanted to have said no. And I'm certain that if he had seen it as trickery, I'm certain that he would not have agreed. So I for sure, I don't see it as trick. It is just a vacancy was there, I personally thought that Carl was the most appropriate person to lead us through this period, and he answered the call.
How do you think he has done so far, considering his only game against Canada in Canada?
I think he has done well so far. The result, of course, against Canada is disappointing, but you could see a difference in the attitude of the players. Carl is the kind of person that, because of his mannerism, because of his attitude, he commands that kind of respect from players, and I personally could have seen the difference. I could see, like I said before, the difference in attitude and the kind of respect that was coming from the players as it relates to Carl being in charge. So even from that perspective, he has started to make a difference.
We're going to be taking our final break. When we come back, we're going to be wrapping up with Crenston Boxhill. Back. Crenston, let us look at some of the issues as we wrap up our feature interview with you on Sports in Focus. One of the things that you also would have to deal with is the big issue of what went on in England. Certainly that was probably a big issue both here and in England. There are some some of the players, English-based players, who were critical of the federation in terms of the organization. Give us the federation perspective on what went on in England and how you guys have sought to resolve that.
Well, as you know, we had a press conference on my return to the island, and I tried to explain in detail what went on. There were a few itches. Some of it could be classified as being unprofessional. I know, for example, even though the coach had given me an explanation, it's still unacceptable. And the team went to the Ghana game late, which is totally unacceptable. Their explanation was that, because I wasn't around at the time, but their explanation was that they went to the training the evening before, and based on the time it took the bus from the hotel to the ground, which is the same ground that the game was being played, they calculated that if they had left a certain time, then they would reach in time that that is required for an international game. Unfortunately, they said that because of the traffic and because of the holiday that it was, and because the match day, the 15 minutes journey turned out to be more than an hour, and that was the mean. So that was something that was rather embarrassing. As it relates to the players, I would say 90% of the time everything was fine. The players were quite cooperative. Everything was running quite smoothly until there was just some, I'd say, let me classify it as poor judgment and some of the players' fault, where they went without permission out of the camp, came back very late, brought in unwelcome and uninvited guests to the hotel. It so happened that we had stayed up to make sure that this didn't happen. And we took what we think was the right decision at the time, and I still stand by the decision that we took there. And of course it angered a few of the players, especially those that were involved. And even the fact that at least two of the players that were involved work with the same agent, it means that it would be quite natural for them to support each other. But again, we are all human beings. Mistakes will be made, and it's just for us to once you make a mistake, you have to pay for your actions, and once we sort that out, then we can safely put that behind us and move forward. If you probably noticed, one of the players that were involved, was actually on the field against Canada.
Right. What about Jason Ewell, who had some scathing remarks for the federation? Is the door actually closed on him? What is the final outcome on what the federation will do with him?
No, again, the door has not been closed. As it relates to Marlon King, for example, who was the main person, his case is presently before the disciplinary committee. If you look at the remarks that Jason made, I'm not certain if they were disrespectful. I don't know if I wouldn't go as far as say, yeah, there were strong remarks, and those were, I guess, his views.
Did he actually talk to you did he use expletives at you?
You mean Jason?
Jason.
No.
Marlon.
Marlon used expletive, not at me, but I was there.
Okay.
I was there. He used expletives directly to the head of delegation. And in talking generally, he used expletives, but I will not go as far as say use it directly at me, no.
Okay. And so, although he disrespected the head of delegation, the disciplinary committee will make some decisions, and you guys will move on.
And we'll be guided by the decision of the disciplinary committee.
Is it a situation that he may be banned from playing for Jamaica for a lifetime?
I won't comment on that. Again, like I said, we have different departments that deal with different things. Just like we have the competition department that deal with competition. The disciplinary committee, it is headed by a very competent person, a lawyer, and they are competent people and experienced people who have gone to these things before. And after their investigations, they will make their findings known and their recommendations to the board, and we'll take it from there.
Let's just look at the camp, the academy that is being built. The whole structure. What sort of structure are we looking at? Are we looking at a two-story building to house 2 teams at a time? What sort of thing are we looking at?
All right, just to backtrack a little as far as that is concerned. When we came into office in 2003, ground was already broken for the academy to be established in Portmore. But I was a member of the board then, and I was very, very surprised when it was brought. Just a lot of my colleagues and myself were very surprised when it was brought to our attention that it was going to be, and what the structure would entail. 1.5 fields, I think it was a 8,000 seater stadium, and some other things. But the location was what was most disturbing to us, because it was right in the middle of a city. And with all the distractions that come with that. And in my traveling, I have seen where these kind of entities are placed outside of the city, before they try to get away from as much distraction as possible. And therefore, the first chance we got, we moved the site from there to in the hills of Malvern. And with the new highway and all of that now, it takes you maybe 2 hours to get there. The altitude is conducive to high altitude training. It's away from all major distractions. You have to be really going there. It is where you have quality schools like Monroe, Hampton, even St. Elizabeth Tech is not too far away. Teachers' colleges are there. And in discussion we have been having with some of the schools so far, I wouldn't say all, but at least some, if we should have extended camp during school time, our players will be able to fit into schools while they're there. And I think that it is the ideal location. We are looking forward to market it abroad, where we can offer high altitude training to clubs who want to do pre-season training. Beach is about 20 minutes away from the site. As it relates to the site itself, what we bought were some unfinished buildings that were, the farmer owner was in the process of building a hotel structure, some cottages. And presently, we have cottages there completed to host at least 30 players. When it's completed, we can hold as much as 2 teams at any one time with staffing. We intend to establish a gymnasium. We intend to establish, of course, a study area, because we're going to be having students there. We intend to establish an area for an office area, in addition to, like I said before, the accommodation, and of course space for a general manager who's going to be overseeing the entire thing. And we are in discussion with the leased lands now to do the phase 2, which is to establish the fields. And we are looking forward to I think that is going to make a big difference in Jamaica's football. Once that is established, then I'm certain that football in Jamaica, as far as youth development is concerned, will not be the same.
Do you honestly, let's look at some of the criticisms that this administration has had. And most of it has come from the former administration, and that is understandable. What would you say to some of these allegations that have been bandied about by the former administration? is it that they're just being mischievous, or is there any real truth to some of these allegations or negative comments?
When you are in charge of a business and you leave for whatever reason, in this case you were voted out, and you sell yourself as being probably the most competent manager that this particular business ever had, and at the same time you left behind the company in debt to the tune of over $30 million, then it forces you to wonder if you'll be the judge of that. I mean, how competent, and especially if half of it belonged to you, where you actually had to take money from your pocket to put into it. I mean, if that is the level of competence that you're talking about, then, like I said, you'll be the judge of that. One of the things that this federation had to bear throughout its life is that for the first time in the history of Jamaica's football, every single year, the former administration put together a team of people to try and break down this administration. So you find that you spend at least a quarter of the year dealing with the political part of the administration, instead of putting all your energies and focus into the development of the sport. And that has been a major setback for us, because if you will recall, the election was very close. It was actually split down the middle, and it has been so straight through till now. I think we got 54 or 55 votes, and the former administration got 50 or something thereabout. So the point I'm trying to make is that it has been split straight down the middle from day one, and it has always been like that. So it has been, apart from the job that you have to do as a football administration in terms of developing the sport and focusing on the sport, you also have to be doing a lot of political work, which is very, very unfortunate, because I would figure that if you got a 4-year mandate, then unless things are really going bad or going haywire and the thing is falling apart, then nobody's going to sit back and allow it to fall apart. But at least I think one should give administration the chance to do what they set out to do, without being there trying every little thing you can try to try and discredit and break down.
Why do you think this is happening?
That's a very good question. Because if you have to lend an organization so much money to keep it afloat, then you really wonder what is there so enticing that you really want to go back to lend some more money to that organization. If in 4 years you lend 30 million, then the next 4 years you might end up lending 50 or 60 million. And it's your guess is as good as mine. Right? I know power has to do something with it, but as to the exact reason, it's mind-boggling. It's kind of hard to say.
What is the relationship between you and the former president right now?
It's a cordial relationship. We meet quite often at different football engagement, whether it's congresses abroad or even here in Jamaica. Sometime, like the Digiplay launch, for example, a couple of weeks ago, we were there together. And
isn't there some tension there?
Tension is a very strong word. I know that I don't think we are each other's favorite person, but we are man enough, intelligent enough to be polite to each other and greet each other, and even when I joke with each other sometimes.
Would you have preferred a better relationship with the past president of the JFF?
I don't think it could hurt. Because I think that is one of the things that is lacking in Jamaica. I don't think it's even confined to the football alone. We tend to when one set of administrators are gone, the next set tend to destroy what was there before, and try to put their own thing on it. And of course, those that have left will try to do everything to discredit the former one, the present one, so that they can be removed from office as early as possible. So in terms of the experience that is gained, there's no continuity, because that experience is not passed on to. The baton is passed on, but the experience is not passed on. So each time you tend to start from scratch, which can only set you back some. You know, if there was a better relationship where one could benefit from the experience of the other, then of course the job would be easier. But then I'm certain that they don't want it to be easier.
How does your family suffer from this sort of thing? I mean, do your immediate family sometimes wonder why is Daddy getting involved in this? Why is he going through all of this? How do they react to the problems that the JFF has to give to you?
They know it comes. The fortunate thing about it is that my kids are grown. I have a son and 2 daughters, and they are grown. They attend colleges in the state, and they know football has been my life, like I explained to you earlier on. And they know that public life in general, this is what comes with the territory. And therefore, of course, some of the things that are said sometime would probably have a negative feeling on them. But all in all, something that we live with, and it's something that we don't allow to destroy our lives, and we get along with it and deal with it because we know it comes with the territory.
Will you be running for re-election at the end of the 4 years?
Well, we still have some time. It's still over a year yet, and closer to the time, I'll decide.
Is there any inclination not to run?
No, there's no inclination not to run.
Overall, what grade would you give your administration in your tenure when you look back at all the achievements that you've of course you've mentioned a number of achievements that your administration has had. Overall, when you look back and sit back, what would you say about this administration?
I have like I said, I have given you the achievements that we think we have made, the parameters which we work with, the resources which we had to work with. So I would rather you be the judge.
Thank you very, very much, Crenston Boxhill. I know it's always difficult to get you because you have a lot of things on your plate, but I really, really appreciate the time that you took to sit down with me and have a little chat. And certainly, I'm sure my viewers will be very appreciative of some of the inside information that they got while we had this discussion. Thank you very, very much, Crenston Boxhill.
You're most welcome. It was good being here.
That was Crenston Boxhill, the president of the Jamaica Football Federation. We tried very, very hard to get him. Eventually we got him, and we pinned him down to some very interesting discussions, and we know that you viewers will love to hear every single detail of this interview. On behalf of my crew here at the Jamaica Football Federation, this is Fitzroy Prendergast signing out from Sports in Focus. Join us next time when we'll have another very interesting and exciting program for you. But for now, goodbye.